Okay, so first and foremost, as long as you're using a gel pen for the cross hatching, if you have your cross hatching done originally, it should work just fine. It needs to be either a gel or a permanent pen. Now, if you have just a washable ink pen, it's going to bleed, but you can still make it work. Now, if yours, like mine, has managed to disappear in the process of all of these things that were going on, you may have to go ahead and just start over with the wash itself first. So I'm going to go ahead and redraw this just like I did before, but this time I'm going to start with the ink wash. So just a reminder, when you're setting up your ink wash, you want to have water, and in this particular case, I can go ahead and just show you right now, there's no ink in there, it's just water. The ink has already dried. So I'm going to go ahead and start by getting some ink and prepping my ink wash. So I just grab some ink on my brush, and I'm going from one circle to the next, drawing my brush, getting some more, and repeating until I'm certain that I have a full set of colors. Remember, you need to have 6. If you do not think that you have more, go through it again. Sometimes will take up to 6 times in order to get that full gradient effect. Now, when you first have yours, you want to always make sure to take your brush and make a little section up at the top to make sure that you have your colors. You could either do it on the back or on the top, just to make sure you have all the different shades, just a little section to know for sure that you have all the different tints and shades getting closer and closer to black. Now, I know you can't see them very well. All of these 3 look the same on camera, but I promise you these are 3 different tones. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get started with this. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to redraw this and do it in an ink wash before I do the cross hatching. Now, you can do it in either way, and I can go ahead and show you the result tomorrow if I can manage to find my cross hatching. But the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get the basic shape, just the basic shape drawn out, so you can go ahead and start putting the wash in for your colors. So if you're doing a wash of a darker shape, I'm going to do this particular egg right here. Now, you can do any one you want, any form you want. Now, like I said, I'm doing this one only because this is what I have right here on me, but you can do basically anything for this as long as it's an object that's right in front of you. Now, I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush before I start on the lightest tone. Now, the lightest tone is always going to have a section where you leave it empty so that you can leave the reflections alone. So I'm going to go ahead and get those basic tones in. And I noticed my brush is sideways. The reason for this is because I want to do a solid wash of color and not actually have any lines involved just yet. Now, this is just getting a nice wash of color on there, and you might end up using most, if not all, of your tones in the process. So I'm just going in the outside areas, getting those in there, and getting that lightest tone in on my project. And then up next, I'm going to go ahead and get the darker tone, one right after the other. And I'm going to go next to it. Notice it's blending together. That's fine. It's supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and overlap on top of it, taking this tone going outwards. If it's still wet, that's fine. That will help you to get that little solid gradient going. Okay, you want to get the basic idea put in before you continue with the next darkest tone. Now, in this case, we have this band in the center of I have this band, you can't necessarily see it, of this really bright area right in between. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone, and I will be dealing with that once I get into the crosshatch section. Now, this allows you to do layers of different types of shading. So I'm going to go ahead and do the outside edge here and stack those colors on top of each other. I'm going to go ahead and go in here with a nice darker tone, bring in the darker tone here and down around the bottom, leaving a section brighter for the reflection. Now, you don't have to do this yours exactly, because whatever you're painting is not going to necessarily be the same thing as mine. You can try and do mine if you'd like, but you don't have to. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go in with a darker tone. This one's much, much darker. I'm going to build that up. And then make a section right here. Now I'm going to add that nice dark ring, that shadow underneath. Notice it's still wet and I'm pushing it around, and it's going to bleed into the other colors. That's fine. That's a good way for it to work. Once it's dry, that is when you're going to go ahead and add your cross hatching and some of your finer details. Now I'm going to go ahead and blend this out just a little bit more. And if you want to smooth out those colors and create a gradient while it's still wet, you can get some water, just water on your brush, and go over those edges. Clean it, just water, and just go over the edge to make a smooth transition from light to dark. Now that I have my basic shape done, I'm going to go ahead and give this a moment so it can dry, and then I will finish it off with the cross. It's not quite as smooth as it could be, but I'm getting a little bit impatient. So the next thing you're going to do, you're going to go in and you're going to start adding your cross hatching over the top of the ink wash. This is going to allow you to add your curved lines, your details, and to have a little bit of control of your shading using those cross hatching and creating those textures. This is really, really good if you're going to go ahead and add some further details and to give the idea of a little bit more of 3 dimensions, but it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. This pen is a little bit dry, so it's causing a few difficulties, but I'm going to go ahead and keep working with it. Now, as you layer up these colors, it's going to start getting darker in some areas, lighter, and staying a little bit lighter in others. As it dries, it's going to get easier for you to do your hatching. You may have to contend with a little bit of paper curling, but it should be fine. Now, if you don't finish it today, that's fine. Just make sure you get it turned into me before the end of the 6 weeks. Now, my initial example, I used a red pen to go ahead and do this one, but you can use whatever color you want, and it doesn't have to be an egg. It could be whatever you decide to do in terms of the details. Your object can be whichever one you want, and make sure that you include these small details last using the pen, because your brush can't handle these super tiny little details. Once you have finished your project, you can go ahead and turn it in. And remember that if you don't have access to the Wi-Fi at that particular moment, you're fine. I will not be counting it against you if your project is just a little bit late right now. But please make sure that you're getting it turned in by the end of the 6 weeks. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.